Hey, Mark again at Rainmaker Consulting. Just a quick subject in regard to meetings and initial conversations and that with prospects, ideal clients. Um, this came as a result of seeing a pattern emerging from some of my clients, especially those in white collar businesses, lawyers, architects, engineers, etc. And there's a few basics that they seem to forget, when going after an ideal client, trying to court obviously a prospect. And probably the first one of those is they're failing to make a good impression, so they're really not doing anything in the eyes of these potential clients obviously to make a good impression, and probably more important, to actually gain their trust. And I think you do that by giving them certain information. So the days of saying, well, this is all my intellectual capital, and I'm going to keep this unless you pay me, those days have long gone, because as we all know, most solutions are really just a Google search away. But for a lot of my clients, their businesses and the people they're after are so busy running their businesses that they don't have the time to do the research themselves. So I think gaining the trust of a prospective client is vitally important, and that probably leads into establishing a credibility. And that's quite an easy thing to do, because obviously if you're giving them free information, i.e. videos, written blogs, free guides, reports, or whatever that might be, obviously that gives you an ideal opportunity to establish your credibility. And that's why I've always been a huge fan of, writing at least a guide, if not a booklet, of tips and traps. And then hopefully that will lead into maybe you becoming an author and writing your own book, which is the ultimate for a lot of people, obviously, in establishing credibility. I think the other thing as well is being able to prove that you obviously understand, what their problems are, and more importantly, that you can fix those. So that probably will be down to some case studies, some testimonials saying, well, Joe Blogs had these very same issues, and this is what we managed to do, obviously, as a result of them becoming our clients. So there's some standard things that I think that you need to do, when having those initial conversations with clients, and also then get some sort of agreement to move, beyond that initial phone call or meeting and that. So, a follow-up meeting, and obviously get some sort of agreement that, what you're saying to them, does resonate, obviously, and it will provide, obviously, some solutions for them. So, and it also comes down, I think, to asking, maybe some more intelligent questions where there's just not the ability for them to answer yes or no. So, for me, for a lot of times, and possibly you could use this, is what is your number one priority this next 12 months? So in the next 12 months and next year, what is your number one priority? And that's hard for them to answer that with a yes or no. So, they've got to give some thought behind that and say, well, really, what am I trying to achieve? And probably making sure that you're talking to the decision maker, obviously, is who will be the ultimate decision maker for this. Is it yourself? Is it a committee? Is it someone obviously else in another part of the business? So again, you need to be making sure that you're talking obviously with the decision maker. And other things like, what makes you unique compared to your competitors? So what do you do differently to, Smith and Jones, whatever, down the road? If there's another 8 or 10 of similar businesses, what makes it unique? And probably the other one that I like to use, obviously, is their reasonings to meet. So obviously, what was the main reason, that you wanted to meet with me? And that again can be across any financial planning, insurance, any number of industries. Obviously, is getting out what is their main reason for meeting with you, because it might not be obviously what you think it is. So and also based on your experience, if you're working with a certain group of clients, you can say obviously that many of my clients or companies are facing this certain issue. Is that similar to what you're experiencing yourself? So obviously I have this experience with these other companies, these are the issues that they're telling me about. Is that something similar, obviously, to the issues that you're facing? And something else that I like to use a lot with a lot of financial planners and lawyers, etc., is really painting that profile of obviously saying to them, well, what does your ideal client look like? You know, how old are they? Where do they live? Are they university educated? You know, what magazines do they read? What newspapers do they read? Do they watch telly? What books do they read? And stuff like that. So obviously trying to get them to paint that profile, obviously, of the client. And also just asking, obviously, is, you know, do you have any questions about this? You know, the things that we're discussing, do you have any questions about this? And the other thing that I've struggled with as a salesperson, as an advisor, is knowing when to shut up. So the 80-20 rule applies here more than ever, is you should be listening 80% of the time, talking maximum 20% of the time. So hopefully that helps, and for some other ideas, videos, blogs, free guide, even an offer of a 30-minute consultation, just go to rainmakerconsulting.com.au. Cheers.